I am Dana Donofree. I'm the founder and CEO of AnaOno. I am 15-year cancer survivor. It's been many, many years that I have been working through my own survivorship. And I just can't tell you how valuable these sessions have even been to me so far out. So if you're newly diagnosed, please know having these tools in your toolkit are just so impactful and so empowering. And I really hope that this brings you some energy to work through whatever it is that you're working through in those moments, because I feel like I never know what ish I'm working on at the moment. So Dr. Sadia, why don't you introduce yourself and why don't you kick us off with a little bit of recap as we continue to welcome in some people.
Thank you so much, Dana and AnaOno, Rebecca, for having me here again for this third part, and for all the incredible women who are joining today. Thank you so much for being here. I'll just do a very quick summary of the last two sessions before we jump in. So the whole series was really named A Journey of Reclamation, and that's a really important aspect of any healing journey, is to have a reclamation of different facets of ourselves that maybe get really stressed or tried or just compressed or shut down during whatever we are facing. So it's a journey of reclamation, really reclaiming the joy of being in a body and being alive. So part one was discovering our home base. Essentially what that means is a place within yourself, a bit like an oasis, where you can feel at ease, where you can drop in and spend a breath or two breaths and just start to feel like the weight of the world melts away a little bit. So in that first session, we looked at what are some frameworks for thriving, and how do we self-regulate, because our capacity to slow down our own heart rate, to move from hyper stress, hypervigilance into some relaxation, is an incredibly necessary part of the healing journey, and you are in control of that. So learning that skill is very freeing. And we did one where we just did a little shake. So I thought we could do that now, just to get us all in our bodies. So just have a little shake. We won't do the whole shake, but just shake your hands and just kind of shake off the week, whatever's been there for the week. Just let that go. Use your breath. Shake all the way down. And if you can, shake any other part of your body that feels like it needs a little extra release. And then the second piece that we covered very briefly was a hug and hum. You just put one hand in the armpit, one hand around, and you hug yourself with a gentle squeeze like this. And allow yourself to hum, kind of like you've tasted something yummy, just hug and hum. And what this does is it informs, especially the vagal nerve, that you're safe and that right now you're okay. And so at any point throughout the session today, if you feel a little bit like, oh, that's a lot, give yourself a little hug and hum. Look around the room and remind yourself, I'm safe, I'm okay. All right, so that's a couple skills from the very first session. Then in part two, we were working on really looking at what is pleasure and what is its role within the healing journey. And we looked at oxytocin and all the incredible things that oxytocin does. But the most important thing oxytocin does is it gives you accessibility to rewrite any stories that you have going on in your system. So one of the fastest ways to self-induce oxytocin is just kind of a gentle touch and cuddle. This is a very reassuring touch as well. When you come into a group like this and connect with others, oxytocin naturally starts to infuse the body. So being connected, staying connected is really, really important. And then we also learned how to open that front body with, when you inhale, kind of stretching the whole front body and then relaxing. And that front body, when it's relaxed and open, again, tells your nervous system, we're safe, we're ready to connect with others, we're ready to relax and heal and digest and rejuvenate. So those are a few skills from session two. And today we're going to dive right in. We're going to go into deepening trust. And I have found when I work with clients, whether it's in a group setting or one-on-one, when something happens with our body that is extremely difficult, it feels as though our body has betrayed us. I don't know if that's true for you, and some people don't experience this, but for a lot of people, if the body doesn't function properly or has an issue, or in your case, breast cancer, which is something that's very confronting, there can be this sense of my body has betrayed me. And so this last part is, how do we rebuild trust with our body? Because that's a huge part of the healing journey. I've facilitated so many women, tens of thousands of women, through this rebuilding of trust with self. So if you are here, you should have gotten a workbook, and I would love you to look at it right now. If you don't have it, don't worry. I'm going to just read out the questions in there, and you can actually just do some writing, because this is an interactive experience. And the more you jump in, the more you're going to get out of this.
So Dr.
So,
Sadia, I think, what's before, as everybody's opening up the workbook, Rebecca just added the link in the chat if you guys didn't get it in your email. I think what you just said is so important, because the breast cancer experience is so physical. And I think what I've really learned from you, and I wish I had had these tools 15 years ago, is that I don't even think I recognized that I was dealing with body dysmorphia, because we
mhm,
weren't using those words 15 years ago. And you were just kind of catapulted into this like position that you had to just deal with it.
yes,
And what you've really taught, and even just as you were reminding us of the exercises that we learned in part one and part two, and again, I really encourage anybody who is joining us for the first time, we will add those links in, but the work that you have been giving us is this simple and easy connection back into our bodies. I mean,
mhm.
I love the shake. And for those, there are several people healing from their surgeries, so shake gently,
Yes.
but in the chat. But I love the shake. And even when you just talked about the front forward opening,
Mhm.
it's really incredible. My personal experience is that all of it is held right in my chest, because this
Yes.
is where all of the trauma happened.
Yes.
Even just that simple exercise that you taught us is just, it's amazing how much my entire system relaxes, because I don't recognize that I'm holding so much right here.
Correct.
And it's really powerful. And I just wanted to call that out, because I think for those of us, there's several stage 4 patients that are joining us today, as well as people that are just newly recovering or new to their recovery. So just for that extra encouragement that these simple things, it's not even like they're that complicated. You can really engage them in your life before you go. I'm doing them before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And it
Great.
it really has impacted me. And it's so crazy that something so simple could really have that effect on you. So thank you for
Yay.
that. And I'm excited to dive into 3. So if anybody has any issues with that link, just let us know in the chat and take it.
Right. Well, I think it was Einstein who said, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it. And so self-care practices should not be complicated. The ability to just be with yourself and to remember a lot of the tools, they're free. It's the ability to breathe, the ability to recapture your attention. Where are you paying attention? And the choice, because you're at choice. How will I engage with this moment? And so today, the choice I want to invite us all into is, I choose to be in right relationship with my body as she is. And when we create an allyship with the body, it's profound. It's, for me, when I had a near death experience a long time ago, and my healing process involved reconnection to my body. And it was very emotional for me to feel in myself. So, as Dana was saying, we often will actually dissociate from the body, leave the body, Or we have dysmorphia where we don't like certain areas of the body, so we don't touch it, we don't engage with it, we don't give it love and attention. And it's those very areas that need love and attention, the ones that we're ignoring or don't want to be part of, that actually are supported when we turn our attention there. So just the invitation, feel into it. Everything today and any of the things I ever offer, they're just invitations. So you don't have to do anything. Just feel into your body as you close your eyes. And see if you can take the kind of breath that gently allows the whole front side of your body to have a nice stretch. And as you exhale, just a little sigh, just ah. And claim this moment right here, right now for yourself. And allow yourself to become aware of really being here with yourself. Are you willing to spend a little time in connection to yourself, in curiosity, and also in celebration? Because it takes so much courage to do what you're doing, and to celebrate that courage is really important. So in the workbook, the very first question is, how would you describe the feeling of trust in your body? But just sit with that question for a moment. How would you, in your own words, describe the sensation, the feeling, the felt state of trust inside your own body? And if you're willing to share your thoughts in the chat, that would be lovely. If you're not, that's also fine. I usually call on Dana to share her thoughts just because I really love her insights. So Dana, if you are willing, I would love to know, how do you describe the feeling of trust, the felt state in your body?
This is very hard and incredibly complex. I don't, this has been such a healing experience for me as well. I don't think I've been very good about asking myself these questions over 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the establishment of trust is a very difficult concept for, I would think, a lot of us, because we feel so betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I feel like I have just begun this process, like honestly in real time, and not even to get emotional, but 15 years after the fact. And being on medication and all of the things for so long, you're kind of always relying on the medication to hopefully like fix you in some way. But then, life starts to happen again. And I've always said that, I've been in menopause twice, once chemically, once medically. Now I'm pretty sure I said I would be lucky if I got to do it naturally. That was literally my thoughts and my feelings, because as a young breast cancer patient, we don't feel longevity. That's not,
Yeah.
it's something that is a very fearful thing. So I feel like I've been building trust, but like I'm a bad boyfriend. I'm like, it's like you're in an abusive relationship with your body, because you want to kind of like be mean to it because it's been mean to you. And then you try to like trust it. But every time you trust it, something falters, or
Yeah.
you have another ache or another pain or another something that produces itself. And then all of the trust that you built up goes away.
Yeah.
So like, what are the ways, like the fundamental things for those of us that struggle with this question? Like, where do we start?
Mm-hmm. I think the best place to start is to bring out that childlike curiosity and just have wonder.
Hmm.
Just wonder about it. Well, what would trust feel like to me? Even if you don't know,
Mhm.
Imagine for a moment, what does trust feel like? This is a very important question I ask in many different places, because trust is a huge thing for a human being.
Mhm.
So just for a moment, for me, there are other words that describe trust that isn't, let's say, that word. So trust for me is the feeling of space.
Mhm.
Contraction is when I'm not trusting. I'm like bracing myself. So space, or even a softening, is in the direction toward trust. So that's how I would broach the topic. And I want everyone to really think about this. It's a deep question. It's not like something lighthearted, but it's so important, because the truth of the matter is, even though we feel betrayed by our body didn't betray us. Our body is us, and we have gone through something with the body, not separate from the body. We are with her. And where the betrayal happened is when we dissociated. So reassociating is that rebuilding of trust. So Dana, you have been reassociating in such a beautiful way. And maybe it doesn't feel like trust in the, I don't know, what's those Hallmark card way. This isn't pretty. We all know this isn't pretty. But in the grunginess, in the realness, the rawness of this beautiful initiatory journey into, am I going to choose life or not? That's the
Mhm.
question I was faced with. It's the
Mhm.
question everyone here has been faced with. And everyone who's here is choosing life. We are choosing it, or we wouldn't be here. So, as a person who was told I had 2 weeks to live on nearly 30 years ago, that's like a really long 2 weeks, and it's awesome. And the journey of reassociating, becoming friends with, I think, is the beginner stages. When we first meet someone, there's an inherent curiosity, but there's not necessarily immediate trust, in the sense of, I don't know this person, I have no story with them. You might get a really good feeling in your body from being around that person. Can you trust that feeling? That's up to you. So part of rebuilding trust is rebuilding friendship. And so if right now that question feels like too much to answer, just wonder about it. What would it feel like to feel like I have a friendship or a connection or a little bridge to my body, where we're in this together? We're not separate. I wasn't actually betrayed. We were, if anything, betrayed by our life experience. And now we need to rebuild trust in being alive, trust in this thing called living. And the body, I mean, goes through so many weird things sometimes. It's like an endless, dynamic, fluid thing that is called the body, and there's trillions of cells. So the first step to feeling the body is breathing. When we breathe properly, take a nice full breath even now, and notice where that breath does not want to go. That's just information. We're not judging, we're just gathering information. And when you exhale, notice, is it easeful? Is it tight? Just kind of pay attention to the breath. The breath is your friend. It's the communicator between your intent and your body, and actually life. Without breath, there's no life. So as you sit with, how would you describe that feeling of trust? If you're not sure, like, just wonder about it. Kind of like, I wonder what it'd be like to walk on the moon, or I wonder what it would be like to go on this adventure over here, or taste this thing over there. You can wonder about it. And that wonderment is such a crucial part of healing, because that's your curious nature. And if you remember in session 2, we talked about oxytocin and rewriting those stories and creating a sense of openness. And this is possible at any stage, no matter where we're at, no matter how heavy things seem to feel, we can still lean in. I wonder what it would feel like to take this next breath in a more connected way. So I don't know if there was anything written in the chat, because I can't see them in the
Yeah,
way.
somebody Somebody used a very powerful word, I think, trepidation, that they approach it, you know, with
Yeah,
trepidation on most days. Um, I would think that that's probably a very common
yeah,
connection to many of
yeah.
us in chat.
So, so then the invitation is, the first question is, would you love to rebuild trust? Right? If you answer yes, you have the whole world of possibility in front of you. You do not have to rush this. There's no perfect way to do this. There's no particular timing. In fact, for most women, just an average female, she doesn't trust her body from the get-go. There's so many elements of being a woman in the world that can create lack of trust. So it is almost like an initiation into being more sovereign, is the leaning toward, well, would I even want to have that? What would that feel like? Because imagine if you have trust, and trust just means it's congruency. You understand what's happening and you're congruent with it. You're not pushing it away, ignoring it. There's an alignment. Okay. So when we have that, then you can face the world together. So when you get a gut feeling like this isn't right for me, who's had that throughout your therapies and different interventions? No, I don't think I want to do that. That doesn't feel good to me. Other times it's like, actually, I don't know why, but that does feel right for me. I have a friend who went through stage 4 breast cancer. She chose to do the chemo route. And the way that we did it, she's like, I want to write that this is love juice going in. And we literally put love juice stickers on her medicine and had the staff and everyone talk about it as love juice. And, so there was this really important part of working with and creating with that's helps cultivate trust. Let's call it trust cultivation versus building trust, because it almost feels like if we build trust, it's like an architecture and it's going to take a lot of effort. Cultivation doesn't take as much effort because it's a moment to moment choice. Do I want to do this with or without connection?
Amazing.
That trepidation, lean into it and feel the truth of it. And it's like that trepidation, if you can kind of pierce into it and go to the other side, it's actually curiosity. One side is contracted. I don't know if I can do this. The other side is, can I do this? Right? It's the same energy. It's just one's contracted. So when you feel that trepidation, don't try and fix it with your brain. Just notice, oh, I'm not feeling sure about this. Great. And then open the body. Take a breath. Reassure your body. We've got this. It's hard, but we've got this. And I'm here and I'm not going to abandon you. Every step of the way, if you can feel that I don't know, it's okay that I don't know. Can I move into a little bit of curiosity? And that can happen in a breath.
Mhm.
And it may not happen in the first breath or the second breath, but if you start taking deeper breaths, that's a reunion with your body. Every time you breathe consciously, it's a reunion with yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is really so important. I think we don't allow for these deep discussions around this process. And the reason we don't is that we somehow think that someone going through this is a victim. And I'm going to tell you, you're powerful. You're the most powerful human right now because you're facing something so incredible and you turned toward it and you said yes to life. That requires a courage that is so deep. So that's how I see you. I see you as incredibly powerful. And even in your smallest moments, in your most contracted moments, you're still choosing. You're still choosing life. And that is an incredibly powerful choice to align with that. And it will lead you on some very beautiful and some also intense ways. So I think this moves us into the second question in the workbook, which has been this question has been such a huge part of the work I do with women. And it's understanding that quite literally our greatest pain can become our greatest source of power. And I am going to use you, Dana, as an example of that, because your greatest pain is now serving an incredible amount of women with these bras and this community and the information that you have. So your greatest pain is now serving to bring so much beauty into other people's lives. And that's how we do this. I also nearly died. And so my greatest pain, I was violated, had my body violated. And it turned into service to women so that they could feel their sexual sovereignty. They could feel safe again in their body. My entire life's work, all my research, my books, my courses, everything has been devoted to that. And so that transformation of that pain into something beautiful is part of this journey. And you may not be at the place where you know what that is yet, but I want to offer the thought, the insight, the invitation that we can, whatever is our most difficult part of life, we can actually grow and thrive through it. It can become an incredible source of power. So the question in the workbook is, transforming our pain into power is a daily practice. I will tell you more about that in a moment. What's one daily thing you can dedicate yourself towards being aligned with yourself? So what that question means is, what's one thing that you could write down right now that's completely doable, that you're willing to do every day, that allows you to feel a little bit more aligned with yourself? Here's an example. I am willing every day to take 3 full breaths and feel my whole body breathing. That's an example. Dana, I'd be curious if you have one thing that you do or are choosing to do every day to help you feel more aligned with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's the alignment is like my current and present work. And, really doing these sessions with you, I think have led me into that space that I have sort of understood now, this disconnection of my physical and my mental environment.
Yes.
And not only the exercises that you have given us, like when I fall asleep with like extreme anxiety, and I've always sort of positioned this with a part of my cancer, my cancer experience,
Mm-hmm.
the stress that's harbored throughout the day around that experience. And then at nighttime, when I go to relax, like the anxiety doesn't have anywhere to go.
Yes.
So it just comes like right into my chest. And so I've really like focused on some of this like self-regulating experiences that you've given us. But what I have found, and I'm not even saying that this has been incredibly life-changing for me. I commit myself somewhere between like 10 to 30 minutes right before bed to stretching
Yes.
and like body regulation. And it has been transformational.
Yay.
And I think, and I don't know, you're the professional, but my guess is that I'm forcing that anxiety out of my body before I'm laying down.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't matter if I worked out in the morning or if I did my yoga practice in the afternoon or if I did my strength training in the evening. Like the stretching before bed has really provided some sort of physical release that I really
Yes.
need to relax.
I love it. So in one of the different ways I trained in Taoist Qigong and the traditional Chinese medicine. And one of the things they say about anxiety, it's the contracted version of feeling centered in your power. So when you're anxious and you start to stretch, you're telling your body not ah, you're going ah. And when you change your posture, but especially the stretching of the fascia is our biggest communication system in the body. And when you're stretching, it's a communication of I'm safe, because This is not a feeling of safe. This is a feeling of safe. So you're telling the body before it rests, it's okay. We're good. We're so good. We have time to actually slow down and stretch. So you're literally changing your emotional brain chemistry through breath, through the movement, and reinforming your body like, actually, we're good. And a lot of the stretching, if you're also stretching in this area and you're taking deep breaths, you're doing the vagal toning. So that also tells all your viscera, your organs, we're good, we're safe. So I think you're doing an amazing job. But whatever it is that a woman chooses to do, it could be small. Like I said, it could be 3 breaths, but any little sign of I am claiming, I'm here, I'm with myself, I'm aligning to myself. This is this regular process of choosing yourself is how we transform that pain. Great. So are there any takeaways so far? Is there any feedback coming in? People doing
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, I think we're doing great. So we can pop into the next piece.
Perfect.
Great.
All right. So in the second part 2, we looked a lot about what's a yes, what's a no, kind of a case for pleasure. Well, today I want to do a little bit kind of a deeper dive into what does aliveness feel like? And there's a reason for this. So aliveness for me, it's the part of our being that it's almost like little champagne bubbles or a little current. Sometimes it's a little drip or a little drop. Sometimes it's a tsunami. So, but for you, if you were to think of what does aliveness feel like as a felt state, write that down because it's very important for you to have this definition as we move forward in this little workbook. And Dana, I'm curious, what does aliveness feel like for you?
Yeah, it's I feel easier about aliveness than I do trust. I can say that my experience being diagnosed at 27 years old forced a version of aliveness into my reality that I don't think I had, or I don't think that many of my peers had. I've always sort of said that what cancer gave to me was the definition of time. And when you are young, you feel time is infinite and it is forever, and you think you have nothing but time to figure out things. And
Yes.
my version of that is I don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
time is only now. It may not
Yes.
be tomorrow. And that has really forced me into feeling the moment, being alive, like in my own presence and alive in my own reality. But also what it's given me is um, a way to force and feel joy that I don't think I could have or would have respected at that age,
Right.
because you can put yourself through a lot. You can really put yourself through a lot. And I was putting myself through a lot. But I had a career I loved, but it was outrageously stressful. I was always putting tons and tons of pressure on myself to be successful. Like, that is just ingrained in me. These are some things I can't break as far as my personality is concerned. I work on them every day, but I'm like, this is like, we're also built to be the people that we are. And aliveness really allowed me to sort of like separate the things I didn't want in my life and bring in the things that I do want in my life. And I'm not
Beautiful.
perfect at it.
Yes.
It
I
takes
love that
work.
though. That's wisdom. And so I want to give that as a little practice. So as we're defining what aliveness is, and it could be just that sense of inspiration or that sense of vitality or whatever it might be, I want you to have your hands like this, look at your right hand, and imagine in the right hand all your choices that are available to you that give you more aliveness. And in your left hand, all the choices that are available to you that take away from that aliveness. And so what happens is when you're faced with any choice, I don't care if it's, do I drink this juice? Do I sniff these flowers? Like, whatever it might be. Will it give me more aliveness so my right hand can go up like, yay, or not? That's it. There's no judgment. There's no good or bad, right or wrong. It's just, is this more enlivening or not? And then you can make your choice. You can say, it's not enlivening and I'm still choosing to do it. Now you're in a place of power. Or I don't want that. That's totally not enlivening and I'm done. I don't have time for things that are not enlivening. So this is a super important thing because, Dana, I'd love you to speak to this. Um, when we're going through a healing, and sometimes it feels like a crisis, we don't have a lot of energy. So our capacity to sense into aliveness is very small, and there might be just a trickle. But that is a gift because in that moment when it's just a trickle and we don't have a lot of energy, you discover who your friends are. You discover which habits are good, which habits are taking stuff away. You discover like all kinds of things. Do you like your job? Do you like where you live? Do you, all these things. So it's almost like a truth serum. And in some beautiful way, I know it sounds awful in some way, but it's also a very beautiful way. People who go through life threatening things, we have access to that truth serum a little bit more, and it actually makes us live more intensely,
Mhm.
which is such a gift. I live like Dana, I've never stopped living like to now is now. Like, I don't know if I get tomorrow. And then I will look at, do I really want to be angry all day? Because this could be my last day. Is this really how I want to live my last day? And I have this relationship, healthy relationship, let's say, with death, because it keeps me living very intensely. So I'm just curious how that lands and also how it's landing with the ladies who are here before we move into the final part of the call.
Yeah, I would love to encourage people to share if they feel open to, because I think something you said that was really impactful to me was relationships.
Mhm.
And I love this word called truth serum. I don't have time to fill up with people that aren't honest, aren't open, aren't sharing the same energy with me. And that was very difficult early on
Mhm.
for me to recognize that relationships are complicated and they are complex, and everybody in your life is not supposed to be in your life.
Yes.
And some of them, you know, may be toxic, although I feel like I don't really have a great relationship with that word. I just think some of the relationships are right and some of the relationships are wrong. And some of the
Mhm.
relationships are right for a certain time and then become wrong for
Mhm.
another time. And as I've experienced this over my survivorship, I've recognized that. Early on, I did not recognize that.
Yes.
Early on,
Power.
I held resentment and anger and sadness for the relationships that ended.
Mhm.
And I appreciated, loved, and adored the ones that were created. But I
Yeah.
also understood I only had so much space. And I've just really sort of stepped back and said, you know what? Some relationships are in your life and some of their relationships are out of your life.
Yes.
And as long as you recognize which ones feed you positively, and when they're done feeding you positively, you just move on. And you have to just move on. And I think the relationship piece is very complicated. In this
Yeah.
space, because most people around you are not experiencing what you are experiencing.
Yes. And you will discover sometimes a surprising person who you didn't think was that close to you is the person who cares the most, who's really there. I was shocked to find out some of my best friends, they just disappeared,
Mhm.
literally like disappeared.
Yes.
And some people that were on my periphery every single day came to the hospital, like every single day, just like were there with me. And I was like, oh, who are you and why are you here every day? And they were also going to a different hospital with a family member, so they were doing their rounds. when they were super busy with work, but still made that effort. So you will discover that. And it's so, what does aliveness mean to you? How do you define it? Really like lean into that. It's so important that you feel a sense of what's bringing me more of that enlivenment and what isn't. And then don't be afraid to like, this isn't serving me. This isn't giving me any, I have no energy. If this takes energy away, how can I even have it in my life? I have so little energy as it is. I need all my energy for my healing. And some people will not understand that, but the good ones, they will understand that, and they will go out of your way to make sure that they're one of the enlivening elements in your life. Even if all they do is make sure that you're, once a week they bring you something to eat, or like whatever they might be doing to support you, and it could be in a very quiet way. Super important, very vital to look at this, because what I've seen is, especially when women are going through things, they try and hold everything together, and they're not being held properly through whatever they're going through. This is a very difficult one. I know, Dana, you've been through that because you've shared your story with me. So this is a very important part of building trust with ourselves. We break trust when we keep agreeing to doing things that take life away from us. And we build trust when we keep making choices that are enlivening. So this is another amazing trust building activity, is just asking yourself, is this going to enliven me or not? And then acting according to what you would like to do in that moment.
And there's appreciation in the chat for the mention of reduced energy during healing time. I think what we're saying is our brains understand this, but it's very easy for us to forget. And I think it's also a very powerful thing for all of us that are healing and are recovering to just take note of, because I think that there is less energy in your day, and you do want to take those little pellets of your energy and use them wisely.
Yes.
And it's not so easy to do, but it's an important thing to prioritize.
Exactly. And somehow I wish this conversation we're having today could just be a part of everyone's conversation when they're suddenly challenged with something, where just collectively we understand, wow, this is hard. You're going to need all your attention on your healing. How can I support? And sometimes supporting means just getting out of the way. Like just don't get in my way. Just stay out of the way. Other times support is whatever it is, but that's a really it's an important part of the initiation, again into our sovereignty, again into building trust. So the very last part that is in the workbook, that I think is a very powerful conversation, is being our own best lover and partner is liberating, profound, and the foundation to thriving connections with others. I'm going to tell you what that means in a moment. Make notes of how the heart yoni practice feels. I'm going to give you a practice also in the moment. And this feeling from this practice I'm about to share with you is going to evolve the longer you do this practice. But the longer, I don't mean like many hours. I mean over a period of a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. So when I say being our own best lover partner is liberating, profound, and the foundation of thriving connections with others, this is also a trust building or trust cultivation practice. Becoming our own best partner. I don't know if it's true for everyone here, but I know that a family member of mine who had she's a breast cancer survivor. What she went through in her relationship was pretty awful, and it just made me very sad to witness how my uncle treated my auntie, and it just wasn't okay. So now, though, my auntie has literally become her own best partner. She takes herself traveling, she does what she loves, and she's really just making the most out of every day, which I'm really, really happy to see. So being our own best lover partner doesn't just imply a sexual relationship with ourselves. It does imply a lovership. And by lovership, what I mean is, for me, the word love is the same as the words profound respect. So just for a moment, would you be open to experiencing a relationship with yourself that is founded on profound respect. And if you're leaning towards a yes, then the invitation is to recognize, through everything I will ever go through my entire lifetime, I am always with me. This is my primary lovership, my primary partner. And this is another way to start building alignment with yourself, treating ourselves like we would our partner or our best friend or our lover. Super important, because often we don't treat ourselves that way. So the little practice I want to give you to get us out of our heads and just to feel is a really important one, especially for those of you who are healing in this area of the chest, because we're going to sit with relaxing the physical space around your heart and your lungs. So I'm going to ask you to participate to the degree that you feel comfortable. And if you don't feel comfortable doing any of it, that's fine. You can just sit this one out. But if you are comfortable, I'd love to invite you to warm up your hands and imagine that what you're putting in your hands is the energy of profound respect. So charge up your hands with the quality of profound respect. And then bring your hands towards your chest. You're not going to touch your chest just yet. And just feel, sense into any kind of sensation, felt state, warmth, tingling, presence between your hands and the whole of your chest area. And if it's comfortable, placing your hands right over the area of your heart. If it's not comfortable to do that, you can place your hands somewhere else on your body. It could be your thighs, your arms. And see if you can, for a moment, remember someone's smile, someone that you really adore. Maybe it's a child that has a really bright smile, or just a person in your life that their smile just lights up the room. And just recall that smile almost like it's warm sunshine. It's so bright. It's like, oh, it's a beautiful smile. And then imagine that warm sunlight, that smiling sunshine, going into the area where your hands are. And imagine surrounding your own physical heart with some of that smiling presence. And this exercise works a little better if you gently curve the sides of your mouth up. And imagine smiling into your heart. Just very gently. And imagine with every breath, you create more space around your heart. Inhale, imagine everything getting brighter as you breathe in. Exhale, releasing a sigh, just letting go of any old tension out. And again, just sensing for that profound respect to bathe this area of your body, bathing your heart, bathing your lungs, bathing your rib cage, and all the tissues in your chest, all the way back towards your shoulder blades and into your armpits. So this whole area filled with sunshine, warmth, respect. With your other hand, bring it down and you can rest it over your solar plexus or your navel or right above your pubic bone, wherever it's most comfortable to have your hand. On the in-breath, we're going to inhale into this heart space. On the out breath, as you release the sound, we're going to imagine heat, warmth going down to our second hand. Breathing into your chest as you breathe in. Sighing out. Feeling heat, warmth, connection going down to your other hand. Inhale to your heart. Inhale all the way down to your second hand. And just keep breathing naturally, feeling these two parts of your body starting to relax and connect. And when you have time or curiosity, you also can bring that lower hand all the way down to rest gently over your genitals. And again, you'd be breathing into the heart, and you'd breathe all the way down into what's known in Sanskrit as yoni or genitals. Breathing in a sense of space and warmth. And see if you can bring that sense of space and warmth down into your belly, lower belly, or even down into the area of your genitals. And just keep doing that for a few more breaths. Sighing out. And when you feel ready to return into the space, just gently open your eyes, staying inwardly connected. Just notice how that feels to be able to breathe into your full torso, connecting heart and another part of the body. And then gently rub your hands. If you have extra saliva, that's a good sign. You can swallow that. And then brush your face. Brush all the way down your neck, down your chest, down your belly, and then down legs and arms if you can. And in the chat, if you choose, just sharing maybe a word that represents how you're feeling in this moment. And then we'll complete our time together. I'd love to check in with Dana.
I think what's so wild about this body connection, and I'm going to assume, but I shouldn't assume, but based upon the crowd that we have here, is that some of us are faced with menopause or sexual symptoms or intimacy sessions as well that are causing, a lot of heart, body, yoni disconnect. And I think it's very complicated and it's very difficult for this community because so many of our medications have these adverse side effects of vaginal dryness, lack of libido, a lot of these pieces. So I appreciate the encouragement that we should be our best partner. Because it's hard if you don't love yourself to love somebody else in this space. And it's complicated and it's difficult. And you gave me some praise earlier, which I was receiving and greatly appreciated, because very early on, and not just the creation of AnaOno, but in my relationship with my fiance and now my husband, he asked me once, when are you going to stop telling the world about our sex life? Because I couldn't talk about how I wanted to feel beautiful and sexy if all I could wear was a sports bra and not expose my body to the person that I loved and that loved me, all because of my mind, body, physical disconnection.
Yes.
and how that meant that, if something pretty helped me feel sexy, I shouldn't feel ashamed or afraid or embarrassed about that. I should speak about it, because 15 years ago, we weren't talking about sex and intimacy as it related to cancer, and especially to young cancer patients. And
Yeah.
for me, it was a huge part of me healing, was being so vulnerable and sharing this with the world, even though it was embarrassing for him. It, I knew it was impacting other people like me. And
Yeah.
that is why he gets it now. And we can laugh about it now. But then in that moment of our relationship, it was very turmoil. It was very complicated. It was very
Yeah.
stressful. And I think coming back into our own is the first step of the process. Our partners do matter if you do have one, or our relationships can matter, but this one matters first.
Yeah. If you can't feel yourself, even you have the most loving partner in the world, you won't be able to receive anything. There'll be a numbness there. So if there is any numbness, the very first step is what I just taught you, that heart, belly, or genital breath. The amount of people who are learning this is incredible. It does things that I can't even begin to tell you, but in a very simplistic way, it's connecting a pathway that's really essential. It's essential on the level of your psyche, and it's also essential on the level of your soma, the body. So it has these essential components. It's going to teach you. If you do it, you're going to learn. Just to do this practice, you're going to learn, because intimacy is really the impression we leave on another or ourselves. So this is such an intimate act. The willingness to bring respect into our body and to shine that all the way down into our genitals and just feel what's true, what's there. And you'll be amazed at how much healing can come from that experience. And then not only healing, there's actually like rejuvenation and optimization. So there's a lot of possibility when you engage in this direction.